Hey, hi everyone. Good evening and welcome to this webinar on Watson language services and deploying a chatbot. So in today's webinar, we'll be covering three services from Watson language portfolio, although there are many, which is Watson conversation service, Watson discovery service, and Watson tone analyzer. And I am your host today. My name is Saurav Raiguru, and I'm a cognitive developer in IBM India, India South Asia business, and I work in the CTO organization of the country. Uh, so to get started, really, so Watson has many flavors, as you know, as you guys already are aware of, which is in the analytics domain, in the data crunching domain, in financial services, in IoT, in visual recognition, and several areas. But understanding language is what propelled the rise of Watson, and henceforth uh, there are two key APIs or services, which are conversation service and discovery service, which we would be leveraging today to create a chatbot. And overlaying on top of that would be the tone analyzer service, which can detect the nature of your tones in five to six different ways. So the goals for today. So we would be focusing on Watson language services that you can uh, customize and configure in many different ways to fit your use case in any form that you like. So as I said, we would be leveraging the conversation service that has a concept of intents, entities, and dialogues. We will see what these three very key features are in the conversation service. And then we would be walking through an information retrieval service, which is the discovery service. So it is an amalgamation of three to five uh, previous services, which is combined into one particular service to give it rich features of enriched data sets. Uh, and in the specific nature of a chatbot, we would be using it to answer any long tail questions. So long tail questions are the one which are very indirect in nature and which are not asked in a straightforward manner, which can have multiple answers, multiple user intentions. And the third, we will be leveraging the tone analyzer service, which is quite the differentiator when you answer a user query. Yeah, and then I would be explaining to you the newest offering of IBM, which is the Developer Journeys, and in which we have created many solutions, uh, and we would be using one of them, one of the solutions there, which is a banking chatbot, and we'll see how you can readily deploy it and get yourself live. So this brings to the question as to why do we need chatbots in this era? So there are many reasons for this, but the two main reasons what we feel is why there is a proliferation of chatbots, and there are startups and there are big companies who are investing in this area is one because of the implicit nature that it takes. Uh, I mean, this is with direct correspondence to a call center or a contact center of a B2B company, or it can be mostly a B2C company. So it takes quite an amount of cost for any company to train and maintain a contact center team. It runs into millions and billions for any big company, even for a company of that of size of an IBM. And second most important reason is that when you have people, so whenever I go to a contact center, I hear that people change. There's a new contact center every 8 to 9 months. There are new set of people, they are trained again, and by the time they could answer well to their customers, it's changed again. So, which is why the need for a user agent or a virtual agent or for a chatbot who can answer the same question again and again without with just one-time training or one-time configuration, and vis-a-vis depending on a human being who would really answer differently for different questions or for different questions that he or she would perceive from the user. So that according to us is a priceless thing that comes above any cost for giving credible answers. So that's why in today's age, we would focus on chatbots replacing at least AI-led chatbots replacing human beings at contact centers or call centers as they call. So this brings to the question of our first service offering, which is the Watson Conversation Service. So this is an API for developers, but we've kept in mind SMEs or even developers for that matter to create a UI-based chatbot for everybody's use. To build a chatbot from grounds up by not coding at all, but to create uh, from uh, from an intuitive UI. So what does it contain? So it contains three very architectural things or requirements, which are intents, entities, and dialogues, to create a very step-by-step, three-step process to create your first answer. If I would keep it very simple. So intents, we would go into this and we will also see how we can configure the service in the next 5 to 10 minutes. But really I want to set the agenda as to what intents are, what entities are, and what's a dialogue, so that we would see in the next slide. But what conversation service can do is that it can create so it can connect to any particular channel. It can be mobile. Your interface can be, your front-end interface can be a mobile. It can be a messaging tool. It can be an IoT device as well. Uh, and then it can integrate into any social channel like Slack or Facebook Messenger or even a Telegram for that matter. And lastly, uh, to say that it's a conversational app, and on top of this you would have your overlaying Watson APIs such as speech to text or text to speech or even discovery and tone analyzer to work around it. You can use text to speech and speech to text to pass on the messages to this conversation service and get the answers. You can use tone analyzer to answer to create that differentiator as to if the person is angry or if the person is very happy. You would like to change that very answer into a different one. So what does a service include? So the service includes when you create the service, you get code samples to get started, and there are once you configure the service as to what it should answer and what it should not answer, with the help of intents, entities, and dialogue, which we will see in the next slide. You can use uh, you can use the API calls from your front end uh, to do the post and the get call uh, to answer to your front end. And going forward, as you build even better, you can use the standard and the enterprise plan for even better support and dedicated with even disaster recovery services. So with that, we will see what intents are. So intents are something that help you to categorize a user expectation. It has basically come from the word of intention. So basically you will have to figure out what the intention of the user is. Say if the user is saying turn on the lights or turn on the heater or turn on the air conditioner. So the intention here is that you are trying to turn on something. And so that is so these are, you'll have to give representative examples to the corpus or to the intent mapping section in the conversation service, and you can narrow down the intentions to give a better user expectation, to give a better answer. So what we can do here is that we can see a particular demo of a Watson conversation, and then we will be able to understand what an intention is, what an entity is, and what are dialogues. So this particular demo that is created here, it's you are the driver of this car that is going ahead, and then you have a Watson service, conversation service, that is speaking to you, or vis-a-vis you can talk to it, and you can suggest something, say turn on my lights. So as you can see,
I'll turn on the lights for you.
Oops. So as you can see, it has turned on the lights here, and it has also responded. So the intention here was to turn on something, and that's the response it has given. So what I'm trying to say is that once you've identified what the intention is, and and it has narrowed down to that intent, you can connect it even to an IoT device to switch on the light in your car. So we can try even further things like turn on. See, if it also remembers turn off my lights. So it's also uh, having the feature of context variables, wherein it's remembering that previously it was switched on, and now it's switching off the lights. And coming to entities, so what entities are? So entities are generally keywords. Entities are generally keywords that have to fine-tune or fine-tune the responses of the intent. So you have to capture specific keywords and values in which clarifies the user intent. So the user intent here was to turn on lights, and the next thing that you asked him to ask the bot is that you need to turn on my lights. So lights is the entities here. So this is the corpus that you need to create in order to use your conversation service. So which is the intent, which is to turn on, and you need to classify your entities as you go ahead, which is lights or air conditioning or indicators. So, and it also provides you with a list of synonyms that you can add. So lights can be headlights or indicators. All these are classification of lights in the context of a car, of a vehicle. So with that, I'll show you exactly how we can use the conversation service. So if all of you previously used Bluemix, you can create your conversation service. This is my conversation service, and I've clicked on it. So I'll let it open, just load for a while. So whenever you create a conversation service, there are key things that identify your service. So one of it is the URL where, so in which platform, Watson platform it is hosted, the username of the service, and the password. So this username password changes for every service that you create, and in whichever region or cluster your Watson service is hosted, this URL would also change. So these you need to make a note of when you are connecting your front end with this particular service to access it. So I have opened, so I can go back to manage, and I can say launch the tool, which I have already launched here. So this car dashboard car sample that we saw, the demo that we recently just saw, so whenever you create your service, the data that is stored, that to turn on my lights or everything else, this is stored in something called as workspaces. So workspaces are nothing but JSON files in the context of a Watson conversation. So which helps you to create in a very intuitive GUI, lets you create your intents, entities, and dialogues. So once you see your workspace, you can just click on view details. It just shows you some information with which is the key thing is that it gives you a summary that how many intents are present, how many entities, and how many dialog nodes. We'll go through each of them when I open this workspace. But important thing along with the username and password that I showed you just a while back is to remember the workspace ID. So this is actually the workspace ID that the dashboard, the demo dashboard was, car demo dashboard was calling. So it is important. So the four things that you require: URL, username, password, and the workspace ID. So and which you need to feed when you're calling from your API. So after this webinar, I'll share with you along with the slides. I will also share with you the API reference document, which is actually the last mile approach or the last mile things that you need to do to connect to this API. But the real thing is how best you can create the workspace in this context. Some of the other things you can do is to delete, edit, duplicate it. It just makes another copy of the same. You can view details as we did right now. Uh, and then you can download it as a JSON uh, and you can share it with your friends and they can upload it to their workspace or their conversation service. And then I particularly click on this. So like I said, that we just saw that turn on my lights or turn on my headlights. So these are basically intents which has been created here, which is, okay, just not clicking here. Okay. So turn on has been fed with so many sentences, which is, what type of music, what music do we have, what can I turn on, what about soft music. So these are all intents of turning on something. Turn on my lights, turn on my wipers in caps and everything else. So you don't need to write in caps, but this is just given as an example. Uh, so these are the intents. Now moving quickly into entities. So the entities are here classified, lights as we mentioned is classified as an appliance, right? Uh, which is, having the value. So these are the values of the entity called appliance. One of the values is lights and there are various synonyms of this. You can add tube lights. So once I click on this synonym part, it just expands into various options. It can be fog light, it can be bulbs, it can be something else. I'll just add headlight. Headlight is also there. So I'll just add this. So it's already there. And headlights is already there. So there's nothing to add actually. So that's fine. But we can add a new entity here. You can just click on create new, and I can do like car system. I'll create a new entity and I'll add a value. I'll add something called as indicator. So you don't have to save this. It automatically saves. You can add uh, you can add some synonyms also for indicator. I don't know what they are, so I'll just do just a different spelling of that. And what you can do is you can click on done. So it creates a new entity with values of indicator. So the other thing that is there, suppose you don't want to create so many entities for your, you just want to start simple. So there are already system entities also available here. So system entities, some of them are switched on for me, some of them are switched off. So what it does is when you say sys location and sys person, so these are actually fed from our API, which is another API called Alchemy language, which is uh, kind of retired now, but it's actually taking information from there as to if you suppose to put any, mostly in the US, if you put any, if the sentence which is coming from the user is having any place, Boston or New York or Bangalore or Mumbai, so it would classify that word as a sys location. So similarly, it would detect if there is anything with related time, anything with related to percentage, number, currency, and if you were to use it, you'll have to switch it on. So you can switch all of them, or you can switch off, all of them, and use only time and date as I was using here. So that is about system entities, something that are that everybody would want to use. Similarly, so another way of this can be very cumbersome for any developer. So what you can do is you can also even import your entities as a CSV file. So the first line would be the entity one, which would be like the car system, and the value in this case would be the indicator, and synonyms would be all the synonyms along with repeat that entity also, and you can choose to upload that file into this, and it would understand that CSV file and translate it into this UI that you're seeing. So you can, ideally this is used when you are taking a set of system entities from another project or something like that. So this was intents and entities. Now both of this together is merged into something that's called as dialogue, right? So dialogue is nothing but a logic tree that is used. Dialogue is something that amalgamates both intents and entities to create a logic tree, and the basis on which the logic tree works is a simple if and or jump to these simple logics which define which are defined based on user inputs, right? We'll also see that. It's better we see that than I speak, right? So another thing that uh, so Watson is training. So this is actually a window that's on the top right, which allows you to try what you have already created. So right now Watson is training because I just made a few changes. So that is why the JSON within this is getting refreshed. So we will come back to this in a while. Before that, I will show you something else, which is on the left side. One of the three tabs, which is so we were actually seeing in the build part, and next would be deploy and improve, right? So deploy is basically you can, even if you don't have a front end, you are working for a business and you have a Slack channel, or you have a Facebook Messenger, or you have a specific URL, you can right now it's coming soon, but it's going to be live very soon. So you can deploy or integrate your Watson conversation, this particular workspace, directly into your business Slack channel or your public Facebook page. So, and there are references here that you can use to directly integrate with any of your BotKit frameworks, or these are actually third-party API, Messenger, Facebook, Slack. You can connect with them. And again, when you connect with them, the most important part is your workspace detail and service detail, service credentials. Okay, I don't know why. Okay, so basically the workspace URL, the other important thing is the service username, which is my Watson conversation service, along with that the password and this particular car dashboard workspace ID. So this acts like an API key. Otherwise, it won't actually reach this particular workspace to give the right answers, right? And the third part is which says about improve, right? So this is basically a statistics or business analytics dashboard that's recently added, which tells the number of conversations. Obviously, we haven't used it, so there are no analytics or statistics here. So, but ideally, it just says by by the hour. What's a median conversation time for each user, because it's the user session for the top intents. So criteria based on our intent. I can greetings. There's an intent called greetings in the page. I can add another one. Okay, and then it would you can just filter even on entities. So coming back to the actual dialogue process. So I can say, so I had just fired, turn on my lights. So basically it is entering, if I go to the dialog phase, I'll just fire it again so whenever you ask the question, it actually pops up into the uh, into the dialog or the logic tree directly, so that you get to know when you have a large workspace, you get to know where it has jumped into. So basically it has gone into the turn on intent, and it has gone into it has detected that lights is an appliance, and it has taken the respective action. So basically it has gone somewhere. So these are for all the appliance, these have been added. Yeah. And so the other important thing which I was telling you earlier is about context variables. So whenever your conversation starts off, you have this first node that is always there, this particular one, start and initialize context. This is always there in every workspace that you create. So these are the 7 to 8 context variables that has been created in this particular one. And this is a simple JSON editor in each case, in each node, as we call it. All of them can be, whatever you like can be set. And then when you're using in this particular node, whenever, uh, yeah, sorry. So whenever there is a question, say this is for an AC turn on and off. So this context variable is again changed to on. So whenever you want to say the question comes up that I want turn on my AC. So since this is the first time, it detects that the context was off, and then it has come to this logic tree on the left, and it has turned. But if I say turn on my AC again, so it says it looks like the AC is on, because there is another dialog below which is actually catching if the action is on and the AC is on, which is slightly below in this logic tree. Yeah, it looks like the appliance is already on. This particular one is used in this case. So this is about managing context variables. So in short, that is what I wanted to tell about Watson conversation. Because it's all about narrowing down your intent and creating your best possible entities as to how you differentiate between a car system and an appliance or a roof or anything else in the sequence of a car. And so coming back to the service, so this is about as I said, amalgamating all these three things. But what's more into this is that I wanted to also show another thing where it can give varied responses depending on the user, which is where I wanted to show, suppose I say hello here. So it has gone into this dialog, which is called greetings. I can add another response, say hello, how is your day today? So what it says is that these responses are in sequential manner. You can set it to random as well. So whenever you say hello 2-3 times, it can, the first time it would answer the first answer, the second time it would answer the second one. If you set it to random, it can answer the first one 3 times in a go. So it must be training now, as we had seen earlier. So let's see if it answers. Yeah, so it's already trained, and in a sequential way, since it had answered the first one, it will answer the second sentence here. So keeping this in mind, I wanted to jump into the Watson Discovery Service. So Watson Discovery Service is it's basically a content analytics engine, and overlaying on top is it's basically a cognitive search engine that helps you identify trends, patterns, and lets you take actions based on the insights. So again, like conversation service, this is also very simple to use because you automatically ingest your own data. From your own data set, you can upload the document formats in the form of JSON, PDF, Word, and HTML, anything that you like, and it converts into a standard JSON format within that because it's using one of the Watson document conversion service inside it. So you can connect to any publicly available data set or any data crawlers. So what it does is it uses the concept of ground truth. So ground truth is nothing but it comes from basically it's reading Wikipedia or the Alchemy API every day, and it understands when you say a sentence, it understands what it means because inside this also it is creating entities and intents or a segmentation within it, because when you say President Trump is you know he's doing some new policy, so it understands what is Trump, what is president, what are the other keywords, because it's classifying each sentence, each line, each paragraph into entities, and indexing them into a particular manner, which is why it is able to automatically apply content analytics, say in terms of concept, relationships, sentiment. It can gather the tone that is being said in the particular sentence, and like conversation service, it is having a simple tooling, a natural language interface for anybody to query, not necessarily developers, and to filter and aggregate on top of that. And like I said, it's using it's a new service, a refresh service, which is using 5 different Watson services within that, which has been merged together to form this, which is the document conversion, which is retrieve and rank, and alchemy language is the one that scrapes information from largely from Wikipedia and other news sources to get the relationships, concept, and the entities into this. So again, when you create a service or when you log on to Bluemix in the Watson Developer Cloud that we have, there are tons and tons of SDKs and code samples to get you immediately started. And as I said, it's free, as we say, a light plan. So you can create a discovery service uh, for lifelong, and you can upload up to 2,000 documents. You can have 1,000 predefined queries and one custom model. So why do we use this in the context of in the context of a chatbot? Is because chatbot is it says that it's short tail, right? So short tail is something that is very the intention is very direct, like turn on my lights, turn on my heater, turn off the lights. That's fine. But what if I were to ask, like, which are the nearest restaurants, or what is the weather like? So these are very broad question. Weather can mean temperature, it can mean a lot of other things, uh, or it can mean in which place. So it's very difficult to answer through a conversation service. So that's when the long tail questions, which are not having unique intents, or when the intents are reducing, the intent classification is reducing, we want to send it to a discovery service, which is having so many documents or stored procedures, no, sorry, stored documents and everything else inside that about a car. It can have a car manual. It can have the delivery service manual injected into this. So when you ask, how do I remove spare tire. That is not something that conversation can answer. That is something that the discovery service needs to fetch accordingly from a car manual and present it to the user. So with this, I'll show you how it works, a discovery service. So, so in the interest of time, I have already created the service and I have opened this Watson Discovery News. So I'll use this pre-enriched. So everything in Discovery is pre-enriched because it works on its own content analytics and the concept of ground truth. So which is why we'll use this Watson Discovery News, right, for querying and other things. And I will show you this my private data collection for uploading documents and to see how we can fine-tune discovery service. So without wasting any time, I'll jump into discovery into the Watson Discovery News. And as it says that it's a data set of English language news that is updated continuously. Over 3 lakh news articles it reads every day, and the internal working of this is that it itself extracts the entity, the semantic, the sentiment, the category classification of each of the news articles, because it is because within that it is using the Alchemy language API, which is known for scraping and creating entities out of the English language. So I've clicked on the query this collection, and it is having predefined queries in terms of concepts, in terms of entities, in terms of sentiment categories, which are fired together. And as you can see, it is ingested with about 2 million documents, or I think it's 2 million documents, and it just builds day in and day out. So this is a predefined discovery news service that anybody can use. So I'm showing because I want to show you everything that is freely available when you create, so that even after the webinar you can jump into the Watson Discovery service and try out something. So it's already so based on the top keywords, time, United, so it's having these top keywords. The general sentiment of any news article of this 2 million documents is it's just evenly across 46, 44. The top entities, so it's basically found out what the entities are. It's detecting US as an entity, Twitter, Facebook, United States, all of these are entities. So as you can see, these 5 things are actually from the enriched text. These are actually called enriched text in the context of discovery. So it's and then you can build further on this. So as a summary, I would say, in which you can just understand, or you can also use a discovery query language. There are, if you just click on this question mark, there are various, and I can just say IBM Trade Finance. That's the latest news as of few weeks. So we'll just try that how it works. So as you can see, it's showing 10 out of 4, 4 million documents on IBM Trade Finance. An example here, since all of it is a JSON. That's the beauty of this, is that all of it is a JSON, and we can see here, if this is the first article, it's actually classified. For each of them is having their entity, sentiment, semantic roles, and concept. So what we can do here is I can just take this query here, which is trying to get the, which is trying to siphon out all the positive queries. I'll just change it to negative so that we see a difference in the results. So basically, since it's a JSON output, we can query it even deeper and then get the negative or positive outputs. You can change here the number of documents that you want to return. I'll just make it 5 and I'll run the query. And even you can you can change the count of the categories. So each of these news articles are, you can do a group by of the categories, and we'll see how it works. Because each news article is classified in terms of these categories: government, politics, or business and industries, government and politics again, or a combination of all these. So you can use all of these filtration and aggregation to get to refine your output being presented. So these are the predefined queries that you'll have to build in terms of your bot, and then use it. And so this is about querying the document. And what I wanted to show you that how you can, refine your answers that you get. So all that so this is my private collection that I have created. So basically, because that was a predefined data set, which is why we couldn't upload. But you can always, when you create your own document system, so it's having a file size of like 50 MB for a light plan, and you can upload your content from your browser, and I've uploaded like 12 documents here, and you can go into querying your collection. So again, in this collection also, as it says, like 12 documents, and it just gives you the standard keywords, sentiments, and entities. And then I go into building my query. So I say motor insurance, or I just say what is motor insurance, because it's having some content related to motor insurance. So that is what it says. So it's found out that there is a content having what is motor insurance, and it's got the summary output as well. So motor insurance is an insurance policy. It's got the definition out. So I can even further refine it. But I wanted to show you something that is in beta stage as of now, but can be very useful, which is, you can train the discovery service to answer how you like, which I clicked on the top right, train Watson to improve results. So you can click here. So this having, because I have already done, I will just remove it. I will add here what. So if for any particular question that is being asked by the user many times, you can pre-train it here and improve the performance. So you can, so it's been added here, and you can say rate results, right? So the same document comes, but if you want to make sure if there are many answers for a motor insurance, you want to mark the others as not relevant, and you can mark this as relevant because it's having the right answer, and you can just go back to your queries. So this is the way you can, train query a discovery service, and you need not bother about how it works or how you need to train it so that it understands the language that you are saying. So currently, so because it is having the knowledge of entities, keywords, and concepts. Concepts are nothing but between motor and insurance, what is the linkage? So it is about an insurance policy of vehicle. So that is what is the concept in this case. And there are understandings of an entity, understandings of the sentiment that is there in the in the data set or in the sentences that are there. So that is what is discovery about. So as I said, it's a automated data pipeline. You just gather your data set, which is JSON, PDF, Word, HTML, and you ingest it into you can use crawlers to ingest. You can directly upload, or you can connect it to a DB, and then it uses a indexed. So it indexes into a collection and stores it in the cloud in the clusters, and then you can query as we saw, and you can see the insights. And when you connect it to your app and the same question is asked by the user, that is what it would reply, right? So just to show another quick thing here, so with respect to WhatsApp conversation, it's just slightly different. So along with the URL that will be there in the home page of the discovery service, you need to make note of this collection ID, the configuration ID, and the environment ID, because this is stored uh, in a manner that it is recoverable if there is any disaster. Because unlike a conversation workspace, this is slightly different the way it indexes and creates the collection within the racks in the server. So that is why there are two, three API information when you call it from the front end. So with that, so with these two very different services, wherein the conversation is answering very direct questions and the discovery is having the capability to answer very indirect questions or very vague questions that can be put up, and it can basically retrieve answers from a vast data set and then throw you something like from about 20 million pages. It can tell you how do you repair a flat tire of your car. So that with that capability, we look at something called as the Watson tone analyzer service, which can really become the differentiator when you answer questions, because you want to know the user's uh, the mood of the user or the emotion or the social background of the user, or basically you can't figure out the social background, but from a few sentences you could decipher that what kind of a person is he, what language is using, or what mood is he in, so that you can give a very personalized message back to the person, back to the user. So this service is basically used to perceive the written communication of your users accordingly and to improve the conversation based on what responses you get. Because what the tone analyzer service basically provides three types of overall emotions. Basically, the first one is emotion. It has it can detect 5 emotions along with their confidence score, which is which is anger, disgust, fear, and joy and sadness, with the score out of 1. So basically, you need to take the average out of this and then craft your responses. The other thing that it gathers is 5 types of social tones. So for a particular query, I have attached these 3 screenshots. One is an emotion tone, other is a social tone, and the third is a language tone. So the emotion tone out of the 5, it would give out that the anger percentage is high. Basically, it would give all 5. I have taken the 5th one, so you'll have to calculate the average out of all. And then the social tone, it says he's an open person, or he's a introspective person, or he's an extrovert. So those kind of 5 social tones it gives. And the analytical tones, and the third is actually the third category is the language tone, in which one of them is that it's guessing that 80% of the time, 80% chance that this guy is an analytical person, and you can't just tell something. You'll have to give clearly some logic behind what you say. So you can basically define an algo uh, or a response mechanism between conversation and discovery, or within conversation itself, that if he's happy, then we give the first answer. If he's sad, then we give the second. If he is happy and he's open, then okay, we can give him bad news, which is also fine because he is an open person. So that's what basically the tone analyzer can make a difference, the last mile difference into doing something. Yeah, and so with that, I'll show you a short demo on the tone analyzer. So it is purely based on the linguistic service, because suppose I take this online review of a contract, third-party contract. So I just click on analyze. It's got something to do with fitting something in your accommodation, something like that. And then you have So based on 3 levels, it is actually analyzing and giving you that this person is, it's giving you all 5. That 60% of 60%, the outcome is that he is very sad, and the language style tentative, and the social tendencies are he's mostly open and extrovert. So you can try that way. So this is how it can make a difference. So usually tone analyzer is used when the person is asking the same question again and again to the bot, and why would he ask the same question the third time? So that's when tone analyzer is used to, that's when tone analyzer is used to detect what kind of mood is he in, or what kind of social tendencies does he have, and so that we can actually tell him that the service is actually not working in your area, vis-a-vis telling something that, we'll come back to you later, sorry about it. So that's when tone analyzer can change the way you respond to your users. So again, we can try something simple. I am very, very happy today. So it just says that it's 90%. This guy is very happy. So probably I'll just remove one very out of this. Yeah. So again, very do not make much of a difference. He's extremely happy. So that's how tone analyzer can make a difference into what both Watson conversation and discovery are trying to achieve. So it can make that minuscule difference of how you want to have conversations with your customer. So with that, having some time for questions, I would like to show you a demo of a banking chatbot that I had co-created with my colleague. But before that, I want to introduce you guys to something called as IBM Developer Journeys. So this is a new platform that uh, IBM has created, wherein we are using, we are showcasing, we are having pre-built use cases, code, architecture diagram, and there is like a one-click button. If you are using Bluemix, then then the app would, after just a click, it would get deployed into your Bluemix, and you can see how it is working. So this is a new way that we are targeting developers like you all, so that you can use these journeys. And and the idea is that they have all been built on free plans of the Bluemix services. So the idea is that once everybody, if you have a Bluemix account, so without paying anything, you can have access to these services. So it's a new way of experiencing and deploying technology and seeing how it works, rather than being curious about it, as to wondering how it would work. And it's probably, I would say, the best way that you and me can get connected on some very nice projects. So this is actually the link, developer.ibm.com /code/journeys. And so this is something, these codes or the projects, ready built projects on particular use cases have been compiled together across several genres in analytics, AI, blockchain, whatever you feel like. And today, because we are having a cognitive webinar, I'll show you some of the AI bots that are already created, the workspaces or the custom model of discovery already available, the tone analyzer service already pre-configured. Uh, so we'll dive into this particular cognitive banking chatbot. I'll just open it on the screen. So we have created this particular cognitive chatbot based on banking. This is on banking domain. On banking domain, which is answering questions from Watson conversation, discovery, natural language API, and using tone analyzer to detect any mood of a person. So any journey would have the complete overview of what it is trying to do, the architecture diagram to give you a perspective of what services it's using, external, internal, and how it works, the technology components within IBM Bluemix that it is using and which is free of cost available to everybody, and some of the featured technologies and everything else. So what you can see here is that the code is directly available. Uh, it is for everybody to fork and access. So this is the GitHub repository containing the code, and the same information is also given here. Is that it also tells you that the build is passing, so you need not worry about anything. You can just straight away go below here. You can watch a little video on how it works and what its capabilities are, because you want to further develop or further create something meaningful out of it. So you can just click on this deploy to Bluemix button, right? And if you have already logged into Bluemix, you have an account, it would go there and deploy for your use. So while it just takes some time and it gets into the Bluemix DevOps service to deploy this chatbot. So it's got like, so this is a new DevOps service. It's called Toolchain. So what it does is it basically there are three parts to this. One is the GitHub and issue tracking. The other is the IDE where you can go ahead and change on the fly and then redeploy. And the third is the delivery pipeline. So delivery pipeline is nothing but the app name, in which region you want to deploy this, what organization and what space do you want to do. So if you're familiar with Bluemix, otherwise it's very simple to just select one of your one of your organization spaces, and this section in GitHub repos just tells you that you want to deploy by cloning it and what is the source URL you are going to take, which is actually the GitHub repository from where we click the deploy to Bluemix button. And you can just select the standard things like enable issues, and basically whenever the GitHub repository gets updated or the latest commit, it would get redeployed. So just to save on time, I'm not clicking on deploy, but if you click on deploy, it just takes about 2-3 minutes to get this deployed, and you'll have a live link of the bot. So which is here. I have also myself deployed this. So this is a banking chatbot that we were talking about. So it's just having, so this is a conversation workspace, and it's also using discovery and tone analyzer within this, but we'll just have a look at how it works. So it's saying that I have some notifications. I can say yes. Uh, okay. It's saying that it's asking me to pay some credit card bills, and there are some gifts that it's suggesting me. I can say pay credit card. Okay, I can also click on yes, I want to make the payment. So since it's dummy, I'm just entering some code. I say thanks. So since it's a banking bot, I want to view my balances. So like I said that it's completely a JSON editor like we saw in the Watson conversation. So once you've identified the intent and the entity, which is like the intent here is view, and the entity here is there are two entities here, my and balance basically. So once you merge all of these three into that logic tree, you can even connect to your database, enterprise database, whatever you have, to fetch the balance of that person with the context variable in sync. So it's not just uh, so it's not just static messages that can come. So it can also have dynamic contents that can be fetched from a database. you can just say, so these are slightly advanced bots that we are using now, but you can basically create whatever you like. It's static messages, dynamic messages. So that's all I had. Uh, so any questions that you guys would like to ask at this point, since we've wrapped up on time and there is some time for questions. Okay, I already see some questions here, which is, will the recording be shared? Yeah, I guess it would be shared with you guys. Can you show the JSON file of it? Okay, yeah, I will. So when you download this, so this JSON file, it would be completely unreadable. It is, I mean, used in the cases of, uh, so that's the JSON file that gets downloaded. So it would be completely unreadable because it would be just, it has its own hierarchy of connecting intent with entities and henceforth the dialogue. So it just contains a list of entities and the intents. And typically this is used for sharing it with somebody who is not on the same service, because this is your service and your workspaces that are visible here. You would want to download this and share it with your friend or co-worker or co-colleague or whoever it is. As you have added only one indicator for its intents like Blink, do we require to add IoT functions? Also, do we need to train? Okay, so so basically the idea of Watson conversation is that you have identified that the person has asked you to do something with the indicator. And like we saw, the uh, rest of it is a JSON JavaScript amalgamation that is there. You can connect to you can connect it back to your middleware, the Node.js code or the Java application, and from there you can uh, trigger the activation of the IoT device, if that's a light for that matter. So this is the part I was referring. So once you've identified that you need to switch on the AC, you can add it in a different way here. So this part will actually take care, and you can send back values, output context dot action dot lookup. If that is the JSON structure, you can capture that and send it back to your middleware, and you can uh, do the respective action. This is just a demo that I was showing. It actually doesn't turn on the uh, the light. It's just a demo to show you guys. Okay, please explain what exactly Bluemix is. So Bluemix is comparable to the AWS or Azure or any other cloud that is available. It provides services on infrastructure level, IaaS, or even PaaS, or even at a service level. So what we were seeing today, conversation service, discovery, and tone analyzer, all these are SaaS offerings. So one step below would be PaaS, and there are multiple PaaS offerings. Like if you're interested in databases, there is MongoDB, Postgres, Cloud, etc. And even if you want to start fresh on a bare metal server, that is also available. Okay, I am creating a chatbot for searching into my database using .NET. I have successfully connected and accessing the Watson service. How do I make the bot to learn from a learn data from a bulk database dynamically into? Okay, so as I understand that you want to connect it to a database. So like I said, that conversation service. So there is a .NET at SDK. If I'll just ask the organizers to send your email ID, or I can answer this question in a elaborate way uh, because it's a bigger question as to how you want to dynamically answer. But to answer the long question short is, if this is the way that you need to do, you need to create. you need to send back the information back to your middleware, and which would connect to your database, and then the response would come back. So you'll have to maintain a context here, because when you come back with the answer, the context needs to be same. It has to be on AC, and you are returning that okay, you have switched on the AC, giving a confirmation. So that's how dynamic services work in the case of Watson conversation. So, but to answer that, so this is a short answer to the long question that you asked, but you can send me your email ID. I will send you some content back to you, that how you can easily integrate. So I guess that was the last question. Okay. So thanks everybody for joining today. I know it's not a great time to learn something new, but 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 I appreciate all of you joining, and hopefully we'll share the webinar with all the participants, and I will share with all of you guys the API reference pages of all these three services, because once you've configured all the three services, the last mile is to connect with your front-end application, or with your chatbot, or with your UI. So thank you all for attending.